How dare you even look at her? The words dripped with venom. Stop it. Just stop. I pleaded, but my voice was swallowed by the sudden tension in the air. The shattering of a champagne glass at my feet was the prelude to my nightmare. 3 women, each radiating an aura of wealth and privilege, had cornered me. Before I could process their hostility, a horrifying rip echoed through the lounge. My beautiful silver gown, the dress I had chosen with such care, was now hanging in shreds down my back, a cruel display for all to see. Their laughter was a sharp, piercing sound that cut deeper than any blade. Little did they know my husband, Xavier, was mere moments away from walking through those doors. If you've ever felt the sting of public humiliation, the burning shame that crawls under your skin, or if you've ever fantasized about delivering the perfect, cutting comeback, then you absolutely need to hear what happened next. Seriously, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because this story is about to take a turn that nobody, least of all those 3 women, could have ever predicted. But before we get there, let me rewind the clock, take you back to where it all began. My name is Alexandra, and 2 years ago, I married the love of my life. The catch? Our marriage was a secret, a carefully guarded treasure known to very few. My husband, Xavier Steele, is what you might call a titan, a billionaire whose name carries weight and opens doors others can only dream of. He owns a significant chunk of the commercial real estate in this city, has his fingers in countless tech ventures that you probably use every single day, and wields influence that most people can't even fathom. And me? Well, I'm just Alexandra. I live a simple life, pouring my passion into teaching art to children at the local community center. My reliable but modest sedan gets me from point A to point B. I get my caffeine fix from the same corner shop every morning, where the barista knows my order by heart. When Xavier proposed, he made it clear he wanted my input on the life we would build together. Did I crave the spotlight, the endless rounds of fancy parties, the designer labels, the extravagant everything? I looked into his eyes, into the depths of his soul, and told him the honest truth. I wanted us, just us, shielded from the clamor and chaos. He smiled, that breathtaking smile that still makes my heart skip a beat, and said that's exactly what he wanted too. So we exchanged vows in a private ceremony, surrounded by our closest family and a small circle of friends. And we've kept our marriage under wraps ever since. I don't flaunt expensive jewelry. I never drop his name to impress. I simply live my life and he lives his. When we come home to each other at the end of the day, all the superficial noise fades away, and it's just us. But as our 2nd anniversary approached, Xavier insisted on doing something truly special. He had been consumed by a major business acquisition, a deal that kept him chained to his desk and away from me for weeks. So, when he sent me a text message with the address of a swanky downtown lounge, with a simple instruction to wear something beautiful, my heart fluttered with anticipation. I rarely indulge in shopping sprees, but for Xavier, for our anniversary, I made an exception. I found this stunning silver gown. It wasn't a designer piece, but it draped perfectly, accentuating my figure in all the right ways. And when I looked at my reflection in the mirror, I genuinely felt beautiful. That's all that mattered. The night of our anniversary arrived, and I got ready alone in our penthouse, the city lights twinkling like diamonds below. Xavier had texted to say he was running about 30 minutes behind schedule, something about a last-minute business crisis that demanded his attention. He urged me to go ahead, assuring me that he would meet me there and that I would absolutely adore the surprise he had planned. I grabbed my simple clutch, took one last lingering look in the mirror, and headed out. As I approached the lounge, my heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and nerves. The place was breathtaking. Ambient lighting cast a soft glow on the sleek marble surfaces, and floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the glittering city. I gave my name to the hostess, who greeted me with a warm smile and directed me towards the bar area. I walked in, feeling a little out of my element. I'm far more comfortable in the familiar chaos of the community center, surrounded by the colorful chaos of paint-stained floors. I found an empty seat at the bar and ordered a glass of water. The bartender, a young man with kind eyes, nodded and swiftly prepared my drink. I checked my phone. A new text from Xavier. Running just a bit late, my love. Order whatever you want. Can't wait to see you. I smiled and put my phone away, taking in the atmosphere. That's when I noticed them. 3 women, perched in a curved booth near the expansive windows. The first one was draped in a white dress that probably cost more than my car. Her hair was sculpted into a perfect cascade of waves, and diamonds sparkled at her throat and wrists, catching the light with every movement. The second wore black, sleek and undoubtedly expensive. The kind of outfit that screamed old money and effortless sophistication. And the third was adorned in earth-toned browns that, impossibly, still managed to look like they came from a boutique where price tags are considered gauche. They were staring at me, not a casual glance, but a deliberate, intense stare. Then, they started whispering to each other, their eyes never leaving me, punctuated by short bursts of laughter. Not the friendly, jovial kind of laughter, but the kind that sends a shiver down your spine and makes your stomach clench. I tried to ignore them, focusing on my water, checking my phone again, anything to avoid their piercing gaze. But I could feel it, that unsettling sensation of being watched, of knowing that you're the subject of whispered conversations. Then the woman in white stood up. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she made her way towards the bar. She didn't sit far from me, just 2 seats away, and ordered a martini. Then, she turned to me, a razor-sharp smile playing on her lips. "I love your dress," she said, but her tone dripped with sarcasm. "Where'd you get it? Target?" My cheeks flushed, but I managed to keep my voice even. "Thank you. It's just something I picked up." She laughed, loud enough for her friends to hear. "Oh, honey, we can tell." She leaned in closer, scrutinizing my ears. "And those earrings? Are those real? They look a little cloudy." They were real, a gift from Xavier on our first anniversary. But they were simple, understated. I didn't feel the need to defend them. "They're fine," I said quietly. The woman in white, whose name I later learned was Jessica, beckoned to her friends. "Girls, come meet our new friend. She's so authentic." The other 2 joined her, flanking me on either side. The one in black, Veronica, looked me up and down as if I were something unpleasant she'd discovered stuck to the bottom of her shoe. The one in brown, Stephanie, smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "So," Veronica said, swirling her wine with a delicate flick of her wrist, "what brings you here? This place has a pretty exclusive clientele, you know." "I'm meeting my husband," I said simply, trying to project an air of confidence I didn't quite feel. All 3 of them burst out laughing. Jessica actually slapped the bar, nearly knocking over my water glass. "Your husband? Here? Sweetheart, I don't think you understand what kind of place this is." "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be," I retorted, trying to maintain my composure. Stephanie leaned in, her voice laced with false sweetness. "Are you sure he's actually coming? Sometimes men say things to let women down easy." My phone buzzed in my hand. A message from Xavier. 5 more minutes. "I'm so sorry. This will all be worth it, I promise." Without thinking, I showed them the message, a desperate attempt to prove I wasn't lying. Jessica snatched my phone out of my hand before I could react. "Let's see," she said, reading aloud in a mocking tone. 5 more minutes. I'm so sorry." She looked at her friends, her eyes gleaming with malicious amusement. "Girls, isn't that sad? He's not even here yet, and he's already apologizing. What kind of man keeps his wife waiting?" "Give me my phone back," I demanded, reaching for it. Jessica held it out of my reach, laughing. "What's the rush? We're just having fun." "Please," I pleaded, trying to keep my voice steady. "Just give it back." She finally tossed it onto the bar, and I grabbed it quickly, my hands trembling. The bartender caught my eye and offered a sympathetic look, but he didn't intervene. I could see other patrons watching now, their curiosity piqued by the commotion. I decided I'd had enough. This wasn't worth it. I would wait for Xavier outside, or maybe just go back home and tell him what happened. I stood up, clutching my purse tightly. "Oh, she's leaving," Veronica said with fake disappointment. Did we hurt your feelings? I didn't answer. I simply turned towards the door, holding my head high, trying to salvage what little dignity I had left. But as I took that first step, everything went horribly, irrevocably wrong. Jessica accidentally knocked over her wine glass, sending a wave of red liquid cascading across the front of my silver gown. I gasped, staring in horror at the spreading stain. Oops, she said, her voice dripping with insincerity. How clumsy of me. I turned away, desperately trying to dab at the wine with a napkin the bartender quickly offered. My eyes burned with tears that I refused to let fall. And then I felt it, Veronica's hand grabbing the fabric at my back. Your dress is already ruined anyway, she sneered, and then she yanked. The sound of tearing fabric echoed through the lounge, a sound that seemed to amplify in my ears. I felt the gown rip from the top of my back all the way down, exposing my skin to the cool air. Time seemed to stop. I stood there, frozen in place, feeling the dress hang in tatters, barely concealing me, and they laughed. All three of them, along with a few others who had their phones out, recording my humiliation, capturing my worst moment for their twisted entertainment. The bartender rushed over with a coat, his face flushed with embarrassment on my behalf. I'm so sorry, he whispered as he helped me wrap it around my shoulders. I should have said something sooner. I couldn't speak. My throat was constricted, and my entire body was shaking. I held the coat closed and started walking towards the exit, each step feeling like a monumental effort. My mind raced. Should I reveal who I really am? Should I call Xavier and tell him what happened? Should I just disappear and pretend this night never happened? Behind me, I heard Stephanie call out, "Need us to call you a cab? Maybe somewhere more your speed, like a diner." More laughter. More phones pointed in my direction. I was almost at the door when it swung open, and Xavier walked in. I've seen my husband in many different moods. Loving, playful, thoughtful, intense when he's working, but I had never, ever seen him like this. He walked through that door with his assistant and 2 members of his security team trailing behind him. He was wearing a perfectly tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than everything in that room combined. His presence was commanding, powerful, radiating an aura of undeniable authority. The entire lounge fell silent, every conversation abruptly cut short. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me immediately. I watched his expression change in real time, the joy of seeing me shifting to confusion as he took in the coat wrapped around me, my tear-stained face, and then pure, unadulterated fury as he understood that something was terribly, horribly wrong. He closed the distance between us in seconds, his hands gently cupping my face, his voice soft and laced with concern. "Are you okay, my love? What happened?" I couldn't find the words. I just shook my head slightly, trying to suppress the fresh wave of tears that threatened to spill over. Xavier's jaw tightened, a clear indication of his simmering rage. He kept one arm around me protectively and turned to face the room. When he spoke, his voice carried a weight of authority that made everyone straighten up, their eyes wide with apprehension. "I'm Xavier Steele," he said, and I watched as recognition rippled through the crowd, like a wave washing over the room. "And this is my wife, Alexandra." The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of the lounge's sound system. I looked over at Jessica, Veronica, and Stephanie. All the color had drained from their faces, leaving them pale and shaken. Jessica's hand was clamped over her mouth, as if to stifle a scream. Veronica had gone completely still, her eyes wide with disbelief. Stephanie looked like she might be sick. Xavier's voice cut through the silence like shards of ice. "Someone want to tell me what happened to my wife?" Nobody spoke at first. Then, the bartender, bless his courageous soul, stepped forward. His voice shook slightly, but he told the truth. He recounted everything. The mocking, the phone snatching, the wine being thrown, and finally the dress being torn. As he spoke, other patrons nodded in agreement, and a few even held up their phones, showing that they had recorded the incident. Xavier's assistant was already on her phone, no doubt taking detailed notes. His security team moved to stand near the three women, not in an overtly threatening way, but their presence was a clear message. Jessica tried to speak first, her voice high-pitched and desperate. "Mr. Steele, this is all a misunderstanding. We didn't know. You didn't tell us she was your wife. So that made it okay to humiliate her, to destroy her property, to mock her?" Xavier interrupted, his voice dangerously quiet. "No, we thought," Veronica stammered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling before her eyes. "You thought what?" Xavier pressed, his gaze unwavering. "That she didn't belong here. That she wasn't good enough. Based on what? Her dress? Her jewelry? The fact that she wasn't flaunting wealth like it's a personality trait?" Stephanie started to cry, her carefully applied makeup streaking down her face. "We're so sorry. We made a terrible mistake." Xavier turned to his assistant. "Melissa, notes, please." Melissa stepped forward, reading from her phone in a clear, professional voice. "Jessica Thornton. Her husband, Gregory Thornton, is a senior manager at Steele Industries. Veronica Hammond. Her family's company, Hammond Textiles, has a substantial loan through Steele Capital Bank. Stephanie Chun recently applied for membership at the Riverside Club, Board of Directors, chaired by Mr. Steele." The three women looked like they might faint. Xavier continued, his voice still calm, but with an edge that could cut glass. "Here's what's going to happen. Jessica, your husband's position will be under immediate review. Veronica, your family's loan terms will be reassessed by our team. Stephanie, your club application is denied permanently." "Please," Jessica begged, stepping forward, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Mr. Steele. Gregory has worked for you for 8 years. We have 3 children. I made a horrible mistake, but please don't punish him for what I did. You should have thought about your family before you decided to torment a stranger for your amusement," Xavier said coldly, his eyes devoid of pity. Veronica was openly sobbing now, her shoulders shaking with the force of her emotions. "Our company will go under if you call that loan. My father, he's not well. The stress could. Then perhaps you should have considered the consequences before your actions," Xavier replied, his voice unwavering. I watched all of this unfold, still wrapped in the coat, still struggling to process the whirlwind of events that had transpired. Part of me felt vindicated. These women had been unbelievably cruel, and they were finally facing the repercussions of their actions. But another part of me, the part that teaches children about kindness and second chances, felt deeply uncomfortable with the unfolding scene. I touched Xavier's arm gently. He immediately turned to me, his expression softening as he focused on me. "What is it, love? Can I say something?" I asked quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. He nodded and stepped back slightly, giving me space, but staying close, his presence a reassuring force by my side. I looked at the 3 women, who were all watching me with desperate, tear-filled eyes. "What you did tonight was cruel," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil raging inside me. "You judged me without knowing anything about me. You mocked me, humiliated me, and destroyed something that was special to me. You did it for entertainment, and you recorded it to share with others. That says a lot about who you are as people." Jessica started to speak, but I held up my hand, silencing her. "I'm not finished," I continued, my gaze sweeping over each of them. "I want you to understand something. Even if Xavier hadn't walked through that door tonight, even if I had been exactly who you thought I was, someone without money, without connections, without power, that still wouldn't have made your behavior okay. Kindness isn't about what someone can do for you or to you. It's about basic human decency, and tonight you failed at that spectacularly." All 3 of them were crying now, their heads bowed in shame. "I accept your apologies," I said, and all 3 heads snapped up in surprise, their eyes widening in disbelief. "Not because you've earned forgiveness, but because holding on to anger would hurt me more than it would hurt you. But accepting an apology doesn't erase consequences. You need to learn that actions have weight, that words have power, and that cruelty always comes back around." I turned to Xavier, meeting his gaze. I'd like to go now. He nodded immediately, his arm going around my shoulders, drawing me close. But before we could leave, Jessica stepped forward hesitantly, her eyes red and swollen. "Mrs. Steele," she said, her voice breaking, "I know I have no right to ask, but is there any way, anything we can do to make this right?" I looked at her for a long moment, searching her eyes for any glimmer of genuine remorse. "Be better?" I said simply, my voice firm but devoid of malice. "Be better than you were tonight. Teach your children to be better. That's all any of us can do." Xavier guided me towards the door, but as we passed the bar, he paused. He spoke to the bartender in a low voice, but I heard him clearly. "Thank you for trying to help my wife. Your kindness won't be forgotten." Then, raising his voice slightly, addressing the entire room, he said, "This establishment is closed for the evening. Everyone out now." People scrambled to leave, giving us a wide berth as they hurried towards the exit. The three women hurried out, their heads down, their fancy dresses and expensive jewelry suddenly rendered meaningless. When we were alone, except for Xavier's team, he finally allowed his composure to crack. He pulled me into a tight embrace, his hand cradling the back of my head. "I'm so sorry," he whispered into my hair, his voice thick with emotion. "I should have been here. I should have protected you." "You couldn't have known," I said, my voice muffled against his chest. "I should have been here," he repeated firmly, pulling back slightly and cupping my face in his hands, his eyes searching mine. "Are you really okay?" "I am now," I said, and I meant it with every fiber of my being. He smiled slightly, a flicker of warmth in his eyes. "You know, I had this whole surprise planned. I'd rented out the private room upstairs. Our closest friends were supposed to arrive in about 10 minutes. There was going to be dinner, dancing, a slideshow of our 2 years together. I even had that photographer you love ready to capture everything." I laughed despite everything that had happened, the sound a little shaky, but genuine nonetheless. "You always were terrible at keeping things simple," says the woman who asked for a quiet life and then made me fall so deeply in love that simple feels inadequate. He replied, kissing my forehead tenderly. He pulled out his phone. "Melissa, change of plans. Have everyone meet us at the house instead. And call Francesca. Tell her we need a dress delivered to the penthouse immediately. Alexandra's size, something beautiful. Tell her to go to my private account and spare no expense." Within minutes, we were in Xavier's car, heading home, leaving the lounge and the remnants of the disastrous evening behind us. His hand never left mine, his touch a constant source of comfort and reassurance. "You handled that with so much grace," he said as we drove through the city lights, the glittering skyline a stark contrast to the ugliness we had just experienced. "I wanted to destroy them." "I know," I said, squeezing his hand gently. "I could see it in your eyes. But destroying people doesn't make anything better. Maybe they'll learn from this. Maybe they won't. But either way, I don't want to carry their ugliness with me." He brought my hand to his lips and kissed it, his eyes filled with admiration. "How did I get so lucky? You bought me coffee every morning for 3 months before you finally asked me out." I reminded him, smiling. "That was pretty solid strategy." He laughed, the sound filling the car with warmth and chasing away the lingering shadows of the evening. When we got home, there was already a garment bag waiting, along with a note from Francesca saying she'd included 3 options, hoping one would be perfect. I chose a gorgeous rose gold dress that fit like it had been custom-made for me, its soft shimmer a comforting contrast to the harsh glare of the silver gown I had left behind. By the time our friends arrived, I had changed, fixed my makeup, and was ready to celebrate, determined not to let the earlier events ruin our anniversary. The evening turned out to be perfect, a testament to the strength of our love and the unwavering support of our friends. Xavier had arranged everything at our home, transforming our penthouse into a haven of celebration. Catering, music, flowers. Everything was meticulously planned and executed with an abundance of love. Our friends, the people who truly mattered, surrounded us with warmth and laughter, their presence a balm to my wounded spirit. Nobody asked about the torn silver dress I had arrived in. They just celebrated us, our love, our commitment to each other, and the beautiful life we had built together. Late in the evening, when most of the guests had departed and only our closest circle remained, Xavier led me out onto our balcony, the city sparkling below us like a scattered constellation. The soft music from inside provided a soothing backdrop to the intimate moment. "I have something for you," he said, his voice tender as he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. "Xavier, you've already done so much," I protested, touched by his unwavering thoughtfulness. "Shoo," he said, silencing me with a gentle smile. He opened the box, revealing a delicate platinum bracelet with a single charm, a tiny artist's palette, rendered in exquisite detail. "For the woman who colors my world every single day," he said, his eyes locking with mine, "who chooses kindness over cruelty, grace over revenge, and love over everything else." I felt tears welling up in my eyes, good tears this time, as he fastened the bracelet around my wrist, the cool metal a comforting weight against my skin. "I love you," I said, looking up at him, my heart overflowing with gratitude. "2 years ago, you asked me what kind of life I wanted," I continued, my voice thick with emotion. "I still want the same thing, just us. No noise, no spotlight, just you and me, building our own little world. Tonight doesn't change that." "Good," he said, pulling me close, wrapping his arms around me in a warm embrace. "Because that's still exactly what I want, too. Though I might be installing you as head of our corporate ethics training program after that speech you gave tonight." I laughed against his chest, the sound light and joyful. "Don't you dare." We stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, gazing out at the glittering city, and I realized something profound. The women who had tried to humiliate me tonight had actually given me a gift, though they would likely never understand it. They had reminded me why Xavier and I had chosen the life we did, why we valued substance over flash, kindness over status, and real connections over shallow appearances. The next day, I heard through Melissa that Gregory Thornton had managed to keep his job after a serious conversation with Xavier about personal responsibility and the importance of family choices. The Hammond loan was restructured, but not called, giving Veronica's family a chance to recover. Only Stephanie's club application remained permanently denied, Xavier drawing a firm line at organizations that valued appearance over character. The video someone had taken in the lounge was never posted online. Xavier's team had made sure of that, though he never told me exactly how, and I didn't press him to reveal the details. I never saw those 3 women again, but I heard through the grapevine that they had become much quieter in social circles, their arrogance replaced by a newfound humility. Whether they actually learned anything from the experience, I don't know. That's not really my concern. What I do know is this. My silver dress is gone, a casualty of that terrible night, but the lesson I learned from that experience remains etched in my memory, a constant reminder to live with compassion and integrity. Never judge someone by what they're wearing, where they're sitting, or what they appear to be on the surface. You never know who they really are, what battles they fought, or what strength lies hidden beneath a simple exterior. And sometimes, just sometimes, the person you're underestimating is married to someone who will move heaven and earth to protect them, someone who wields power and influence with unwavering loyalty. But more importantly, sometimes that person doesn't need protection at all. They just need a moment to show their own strength, their own grace, and their own power. Because real power isn't about money or connections or who you know. Real power is choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. It's offering forgiveness when revenge would be simpler. It's walking away with your dignity intact, even when everything else has been stripped away. That's the lesson I learned the night my dress was torn and my husband walked through the door, his presence a beacon of hope in the darkness. And that's a lesson I'll carry with me forever, a guiding principle in my life. And that's how 3 bullies learned the hardest lesson of their lives. A lesson they will likely never forget. Sometimes karma doesn't wait. It walks through the door in a perfectly tailored suit, radiating an aura of power that demands respect. If the story resonated with you, if you believe in the power of kindness and the importance of standing up for what's right, then smash that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Drop a comment below, telling me, would you have handled the situation with grace and forgiveness, as I did? Or would you have succumbed to the desire for revenge, seeking retribution for the pain you had suffered? Subscribe to my channel because I've got more unbelievable true stories coming your way, stories that will challenge your perceptions, inspire your soul, and remind you that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope. Remember, never judge someone by their appearance. You never know who they really are, what they've been through, or what hidden strengths they possess. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.